Aya Natuzumi, also known as the Damask Drum, is a Japanese no play by an unknown author written in the 15th century. The word Aya means twill, but the first English translation by Arthur Wally used the word damas, and this choice is almost invariably preserved by later Western writers. According to Tyler, Damas is far more evocative. The play, which depicts the tragic consequences of unrequited desire, has been praised as frightening and difficult to forget. It has been translated into English twice by Arthur Wally in 1921 and Royal Tyler in 1992. The author, Tsuyame Motokyo, also called Kansai Motokyo, was a Japanese aesthetician, actor, and playwright. At the age of 12, he attracted the attention of Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimitsu during a stage performance. Tsuyame wrote more than 50 plays for the Noh Theater, as well as Fushikaden, a book of instruction for Noh actors that is considered a poetic aesthetic treatise, and a manual for life as well as acting. The book is written as a dictation from his father Kanami, whom Tsuyame considered a consummate actor. The culture. The Damas drum unite traditional and contemporary Japanese practices in a show that is fun, celebratory, and thought-provoking. This Japanese manga comic inspired show features richly costumed performers accompanied by live folk music and awa dance. The Damas drum making them accessible for a modern Western audience.
It happened in the time of Emperor Tenji at the Katsura Pond located in the grounds of a temporary palace called Kinomaru in Chikuzen province. An old man who sweeps the floor of the palace garden happened to take a glance at a concert and fell in love with her. An imperial official orders his servant to deliver a message from the concert to the old man, saying that she will appear before him if she hears the sound of a hand drum hanging from a branch of a katsura tree that grows beside the pond. The old man keeps hitting the hand drum and tries hard to make it sound, but the hand drum never does so because its head is made of a twill fabric. Suffering from distress, the old man leaps into the pond and drowns himself. Hearing from his servant the old man has drowned himself, the imperial official tells the news to the consort. As the consort starts to hear the sound of the hand drum coming from the pond, she looks as though she is losing her mind. Then, from the bottom of the pond emerges the ghost of the old man. He now looks like a demon and attacks the consort. Brandishing a whip, he orders the consort to make a sound with a twill hand drum. However, the drum never makes a sound. Having taught the consort a lesson in karmic retribution, he vanishes into the pond, to the very end echoing and voicing his feelings of bitterness towards her. So the first half of the drama describes the old man's earnest love that by contrast, in the second half, turns into bitter rage as he vehemently attacks the consort who he thinks made a fool of him. For her part, however, the consort confesses that she was already not in her right mind at the time that she gave him the twill hand drum. The theme of this play revolves around an old man's love that results in tragedy and a grudge. Neither age nor status stops a person from falling in love, but the tragic end of this drama is predictable. That from the start, when a lowly old man falls in love with a noble beauty. So, what does this story or this play imply? So, this implies that love, no matter how pure and no matter how wholesome or no matter how sacred, can be deceived by a person with power and elite social status.
Hello everyone, I'm Herzi Tarayaw.
So tell me about your deception story and what have you learned from your experience?
This is my story. I honestly don't know where and how to start. Kaya siguro sasabihin ko na lang to ng kung ano yung laman ng heart ko. Siguro at first hindi mo kasi alam hindi ko masasabing inosente akong tao, but I'm a type of person na hindi ko alam na niloloko na pala ako. And even though na niloloko na ako, magpapatuloy pa rin ako and I'm still willing to give it second chance or mas mahabang chance as long as mahal. Sabi nga nila, everyone can be deceived by love. Like, a color. Minsan, malulure tayo or mag-fool tayo ng simpleng kulay lang. For example, asul na pwedeng mag-symbolize as kapayapaan, pero pwede rin kalungkutan. Berde na pwedeng mag-symbolize sa kalusugan, pero pwede rin inggit. Puti na pwedeng magsimbolo sa kalinisan, na pwede rin na kamatayan. At pula na pwede rin na sa pagmamahal, pag-ibig, pero pwede rin na panganib. And lastly, dilaw na pwede na kasiyahan, pero pwede rin panlilim lang. So, parang katulad ako ng mga kulay na yon na siguro madali akong malilang and hindi ako mabilis maniwala kung naloloko ba ako. Siguro at first yung naging reaction ko nung nalaman ko na naloko ko, syempre sino bang hindi iyak? Lahat tayo vulnerable pagdating sa ganyan. Pero dumating ako sa point na nagalit. Umiyak ako hindi dahil nasaktan ako. Umiyak ako dahil nagalit ako. And ang unang naisip noon ay gumante. Pero siguro, God didn't give me a chance na mag-take ng revenge kasi alam niya na masyadong malaki yung heart ko para bigyan ko ng puwang yung pagganti. So, I chose to accept actually the fact that hindi siya para sa akin and there's still a man na naghihintay sa akin because siya yung right person for me. And the best revenge na ginawa ko ay tinanggap ko, nag-move on ako, and look at me now. Proud, confident girl, mas naging independent ako, and mas nakita ko yung mga priorities ko and dapat kong fokusan. That's all. Thank you.
So that's the lighter version of Japan's The Damask Drum. Thank you very much, Miss Herzi.
Thank you.
I learned that love sometimes turns into grudge and tragedy if not reciprocated by someone dear to you. In this play, I learned that love can be pure and detrimental at the same time. For me, if I will love someone, I will love them purely no matter what they are. If I have the same situation just like the old man, I will set aside the love that has been abandoned and move on. I felt moved about this play because it taught me how sacred, how wholesome, and how essential love is to one's life.
So hello, I am Ansley Carino and here's my take for the story Japan's The Damask Drum. So the story revolves around the tragedy and deception by the princess to the gardener. Kung saan niloko niya yung gardener na kapag tumunog daw yung drum na nababalot ng damask cloth, pakakasalan niya yung gardener. Pero hindi talaga ito tunog kasi yung damask cloth nga is yun. Sa buhay, pag nanloko tayo ng tao, hindi naman natin ina-expect na tatanggapin lang nila yun as a joke. Kasi may mga taong seryoso masyado sa buhay and malalim yung pinanghugutan nila ng lahat ng ginagawa nilang bagay. Kaya hindi maganda yung manloko ng kapwa kasi lahat yan ay may kaakibat na mabigat na responsibilidad. So, hindi ko pa naman siya na-experience pero yan ang natutunan ko sa story. Huwag kang manloko at wag kang magpa-loko. And you should analyze every story before you act. You should analyze every situation before you act. Yun lang.
Hi, my name is Aldrin. The Damas drum made me learn how deception can really affect the mentality and the well-being of not just the person who was being deceived, but the person who was deceiving someone else as well. I realized that revenge is not a bad thing at all times. The only thing that make it bad is the means that how revenge was executed. What I want everyone to get from this is that you must value your life. Don't let deception cost you your life. Don't let every mishap get to your sanity. Don't let hatred fuel your revenge. And most importantly, don't deceive other people. Because even though people are gullible, that doesn't give you an excuse to deceive them.
I learned in the story is set their expectation low enough that they are achievable, but not so high. You fail to reach them. If you don't expect too much, you will never be disappointed. I learned people need to learn that their actions do affect other people. So be careful what you say and do. It's not always just about you.